Good morning. It's 68 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny. Traffic is a bit heavy today, so I'd suggest leaving 10 minutes early for your 9 a.m. meeting. Regarding your support ticket, I definitely hear your frustration with that billing error. I've submitted and confirmed a request for a full refund on your behalf. You should see those funds backing your account within 3 business days. Have you ever wondered what ancient humans actually did all day before jobs existed? On average, a modern human spends about 90,000 hours of their life working. That's roughly one-third of your entire waking existence dedicated to deadlines, paychecks, and the relentless climb up the career ladder. Yet, for 99% of human history, for nearly 300,000 years, things like bosses, alarm clocks, and employee IDs simply didn't exist. Our ancestors weren't trapped in a 24/7 struggle for survival, as we often imagine. In reality, they worked less than half as much as we do today, enjoyed better health, and spent the vast majority of their time creating, resting, and connecting with their community. In other words, the life of freedom we slave away our entire lives hoping to retire into was actually humanity's default setting for hundreds of thousands of years. So, how do we actually know this? Is there proof, or are we just romanticizing the past? The answer comes from two places: modern anthropology and ancient bones. Back in 1963, archaeologist Richard Lee tracked the daily life of the Dobi-Juon-Sha people in Botswana, a group living almost exactly like pre-agricultural humans. He discovered that adults spent only about 2.5 days a week hunting and gathering food. That's just 17 hours a week. And this isn't an isolated case. Anthropologists found the exact same pattern with the Hadza in Tanzania, the Aceh and Paraguay, and the Martu in Australia. Across different continents and environments, ancient survival took just 15 to 20 hours a week. Compare that to your 40-plus hour work week. Now, if you're wondering whether ancient skeletons tell the same story, they do, and the contrast is shocking. When agriculture took over, early farmers became shorter, suffered from severe nutritional deficiencies, had teeth riddled with cavities from grain diets, and developed painful arthritis from repetitive field labor. The skeletons of hunter-gatherers, on the other hand, were taller, stronger, had healthier teeth, and showed far less joint damage. But the most incredible evidence isn't about physical health, it's about art. In Chauvet Cave in France, 30,000-year-old wall paintings display breathtaking perspective, shading, and movement. In South Africa, 100,000-year-old shell beads prove that someone walked 40 kilometers round trip just to collect shells and spend hours drilling holes to make jewelry. And in Germany, archaeologists found a 40,000-year-old flute meticulously carved from vulture bone with perfectly spaced finger holes. These items weren't made for survival or hunting, they were made for beauty, music, and self-expression. People created them simply because they had the time, the skill, and the freedom to do so. To really understand what this felt like, let's reconstruct a single day in the life of an ancient human. You wake up at dawn when your body is naturally ready. No alarm, no rush, no schedule. You eat leftovers from yesterday with your band, talking and loosely planning the day over a smoldering fire. If the hunt was successful a day or two ago, you don't even leave camp. You might spend the morning sharpening a spear, weaving a basket, or scraping animal hides. This isn't work in the modern sense. There's no boss watching you, no clock ticking down. You do it because making things well earns respect and gives you a sense of competence. If a hunt does happen, it's not a frantic chase. Humans are persistence hunters. We track animals at a steady jog for hours, taking advantage of our unique ability to sweat and cool down while running, until the animal literally collapses from heat exhaustion. By early afternoon, the productive part of the day is over. What follows next is what modern humans struggle to comprehend: hours of pure leisure. Adults spend up to 6 hours a day in social time, resting in the shade, playing with children, grooming each other, carving beads, or taking naps. In a world without money or police, your survival depends entirely on your relationships. Keeping strong bonds with your group wasn't a luxury, it was how humans stayed human. When night falls, the true magic happens. Around the campfire, daytime talk about animal tracks and plant foraging shifts. Over 80% of nighttime conversations become stories, myths about the creation of the world, tales of ancestors, jokes, and legends. This is where human culture, music, and religion were born. And when it's time to sleep, you don't sleep for 8 straight hours. You sleep in 2 distinct phases: 4 hours of rest, followed by 1 to 2 hours of waking reflection in the dark, and then a second sleep until morning. Your day consisted of 4 to 6 hours securing food, 6 hours socializing, and the rest spent resting, watching clouds, and simply existing without ever needing to justify your productivity. So, if life was so balanced and free, what went wrong? How did we end up in 40-hour work weeks, endless commute times, and burnout? The change started roughly 10,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent with the invention of agriculture. Humans began planting seeds and domesticating animals, and farming turned out to be a trap. Here's why. Once you start farming, you can produce more food. More food leads to a population explosion. But a bigger population requires even more food, forcing you to farm even more land. Within just a few generations, there were too many mouths to feed through hunting and gathering. Humanity was locked in. There was no going back. And farming was brutal compared to foraging. It demanded relentless, repetitive physical labor: plowing, planting, weeding, harvesting, and defending crops from pests and raiders. As the skeleton evidence showed, early farmers worked significantly harder, ate a worse diet, suffered more diseases, and died younger than the hunter-gatherers before them. As agricultural societies grew into massive settlements, labor became specialized. We needed potters, toolmakers, weavers, and eventual armies, priests, and administrators to keep order. By the time the first cities arose, the original human lifestyle was completely extinct, replaced by schedules, strict hierarchies, and the necessity to work most of your waking life just to survive in the system we created. When you step back and look at the big picture, the contrast is humbling. We traded freedom for food security. We traded leisure for population growth. We traded time for productivity. Today, you spend 90,000 hours of your life working. You sleep in one solid block and call waking up at 2 a.m. insomnia, when it was actually our natural rhythm for millennia. You spend your life chasing an illusion of success, measuring your worth by deadlines, wealth, and societal expectations. Our ancestors woke up every single morning already free, already enough, with nothing to prove to anyone. They didn't need to become successful or wait decades to retire. They were already living the life we work our entire lives hoping to buy back. They made art, played music, and told stories because they had time, and because that's what humans naturally do when they're not forced to prove their value through output. We're not a different species from them, but we live so differently from how humans existed for 99% of our history that we might as well be. Most of us go through life having no idea what we gave up, simply because we never knew it was there in the first place.